Hey guys, what's good? Derek here from Bomb Socks with more Bomb Bites, where we feast upon the words of Christ, one bite at a time. So yesterday I introduced you to this concept of preach my gospel, Paul and Barnabas edition from Acts chapter 13 and 14. And I gave you about 5 or 6 things yesterday that if you just went from these chapters, if that's all a missionary had, there's still some great things you can learn from this. And I want to give you part 2 of that as you get into chapter 14. You go to verse number 3 and it says, "Long time therefore abode they, speaking boldly in the Lord, which gave testimony unto the word of his grace, granted signs and wonders to be done by their hands." If you are a missionary and you want to share the gospel, never underestimate the abilities to be able to speak boldly in the Lord, which is going to give testimony of his grace. As you're a missionary, share that testimony. You might try to convince and point, bear your testimony. Never underestimate the power of bearing your personal testimony about what you know to be true. I love that. Now, the second thing I want to share with you right here, as they are giving their testimony, again, you see this often in the life and ministry of Paul. Verse number 4, "But the multitude of the city was divided, part held with Jews, part with the apostles. And when there was an assault made both of the Gentiles and also of the Jews with their rulers, to use them despitefully and to stone them. And they were aware of it," meaning Paul and Barnabas, they themselves had been a part of this, "and fled to Lystra and Derbe, cities of Lycaonia," I believe that's how you say that, "and unto the region that lieth round about, and there they preached the gospel." So you're probably going, what's the principle here? Well, the principle here is transfers are a part of missionary service. Whenever you're serving out there as a full-time missionary, you're going to know that you're out there and you're going to be transferred to other areas. In fact, if you see a map of Paul's missionary service, you're going to see his transfers where he's going all over the place. It's hard because you build relationships with people, you build relationships with communities, church, everything like that there, and then you got to go. And it's always hard, and it's a necessary part of missionary service. Now, the cool thing about transfers is the Lord is really good at what he does. You go to verse number 8, "And there sat a certain man in Lystra, impotent in his feet," meaning he's not able to walk, "being a cripple from his mother's womb, who had never walked. The same heard Paul speak, who steadfastly beholding him, and perceiving that he had faith to be healed, said with a loud voice, Stand upright on thy feet. And he leaped and walked." Verse 11, "When the people saw what Paul had done, they lifted up their voices, saying in the speech of Lycaonia, The gods are come down to us in the likeness of men." And so when you are transferred to new areas, there will be people there for you to teach. There will be people ready for you. That's just kind of what happens. The Lord often sends people from one area to the next because there's people there that are ready to listen to your message. That's an important thing right there. As soon as they get from one place or they're having a hard time, they go to this new area, there's people there ready for them. That's an important principle to always remember. Now, verses 19 and 20, this is a little bit extreme, but I think there's a principle here. "And they came thither certain Jews from Antioch and Iconium, who persuaded the people, and having stoned Paul, drew him out of the city, supposing that he had been dead. Howbeit, as the apostles stood round about him, he rose up, came into the city, and the next day he departed with Barnabas to Derbe." So you're going to have rough days as a missionary, okay? This one right here is a pretty rough one for Paul. In fact, this happens to him often. They got stones they're chucking at him. So you're going to have a rough day. But the nice thing about missionary service is there's always going to be another day where you can start fresh again. The next day, you get up and you keep moving forward. You might have a rough day. I don't know if it's going to be that extreme, but you're going to get a chance the next day to be able to start fresh again. That's an important thing to understand as a missionary as well. You're going to have rough days, but you start fresh the next day and you're going to be good to go. Well, I love this final little verse I'm going to share with you down in verse 27. It's such a cool principle. "When they were come," they were again to another area, "and had gathered the church together, they rehearsed all that God had done with them, and how he had opened the door of faith unto the Gentiles." One thing to remember is the Lord will open up doors for you. There's many instances out there. There's many people watching this episode that can testify to that principle, how the Lord will open doors for you. You get out there, you do what you need to do, you have the Spirit with you, and you're going to see the Lord open doors for you. So again, these are just some principles right here. Let me just kind of go quickly back over them again. You fast, you separate yourself from the rest of the world. You're set apart. You have the Spirit with you. The Spirit is the true teacher. You always are ready and willing to speak at any time. And what is that message? You preach about Jesus Christ and his atonement and forgiveness. Remember that persecution will happen, but you still can be filled with joy. Always bear your testimony as a missionary. Remember that transfers are a part of missionary service and can be a blessing to you. When you get into a new area, people are going to be there for you to teach. It's going to happen. You're going to have these hard, rough days, but there will always be a new day to try again, and then God will open many doors for you. So if you're just taking Acts chapter 13 and 14 for a Preach My Gospel, these are some principles that I think are important for any missionary to understand. I love what's taught here, and I love the examples of Paul and Barnabas on this crazy first adventure of missionary service where they had some wonderful and awesome experiences to teach you and I about missionary service. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks as always for sharing. So grateful that you do that. Please check out our amazingly comfortable gospel-themed socks at bombsocks.com. Godspeed, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.